July 6, 1944. A hot summer afternoon in Hartford, Connecticut. The greatest show on earth was in town. 7,000 spectators packed under the big top to watch Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus perform. Families, soldiers on leave, children giddy with excitement. Within 10 minutes of the first flames being spotted, that joy turned into horror. The circus tent, coated in a paraffin and gasoline mixture, went up like a torch. Between 163 and 168 people were killed, more than 700 injured. It would be remembered as the day the clowns cried. In the 1940s, the circus was still America's traveling wonder. For many, especially in wartime, it was the biggest show they'd ever see. The tent was enormous, seating thousands, held up by poles and ropes. And to keep the rain out, workers brushed on paraffin, cut with gasoline. Cheap, easy, deadly. The circus had used the method for decades, even after earlier fires proved it was a disaster waiting to happen. The audience that July was heavy with children. Schools had been let out early so kids could attend. Parents brought entire families, eager for an afternoon away from wartime worries. 20 minutes into the performance, while the great Wallendas drew the crowd's eyes skyward, someone noticed a flame on the southwest sidewall of the tent. The investigators blamed a cigarette or match. Some floated arson, tied to a troubled young man named Robert Segui, but his story fell apart. The consensus? Careless smoking in a tinderbox of paraffin-soaked canvas. Once the flame touched the wall, the fire raced upward and across the roof. Bandleader Merle Evans spotted the blaze and signaled a disaster, the only way circus people would know. He ordered the band to play The Stars and Stripes Forever, the circus's code for catastrophe. At first, many thought it was part of the act. Seconds later, disbelief gave way to panic. Burning sheets of canvas fell like fiery curtains. Smoke choked the exits. Molten paraffin rained down, clinging to skin like napalm. Animals were rushed out the back. Trainers slashed holes in the tent with knives and axes, but thousands surged toward the main exits. Choke points that became death traps. Worse still, the steel animal runways blocked the key aisles. Patrons piled up against them, trapped. Loose folding chairs toppled, tripping people and fueling the crush. The problem wasn't new back then. It isn't new today. Wide open exit paths attract junk. At Hartford, it was cages and chutes. In my own career, I found exits chained shut, corridors cluttered, doors locked. The temptation is timeless, and in a fire, those obstructions can mean death. Parents lifted children and hurled them to strangers outside. One survivor remembered a man flinging kids over a cage. 11-year-old Maureen Creakin jumped from the bleachers, landed in straw, and was pulled through a slit in the canvas by a boy with a pocket knife. She grabbed another girl's arm and dragged her out too. Within 8 minutes, the big top collapsed into flaming canvas and twisted poles. Firefighters and police moved fast, but the tent was already gone. Clowns, trainers, roustabouts, they risked their lives guiding people out. Spectators dragged kids through holes, doused flames with buckets, fought with whatever they had. The blaze moved faster. By the time fire engines were in place, the battle wasn't to save the tent, but to attempt a nearly impossible rescue of those still trapped. The toll? Between 163 and 168 dead, depending on what sources you go to. More than 700 injured. Entire families gone. Dozens of children orphaned. One little girl became the tragedy's face, unidentified. She was buried as Little Miss 1565, named for her morgue tag. Decades later, DNA suggested she was Eleanor Cook, age 6, though debate continues. Hospitals were overwhelmed, but wartime medicine saved lives. Lessons learned from the Coconut Grove fire 2 years earlier taught the doctors the value of plasma and oxygen for burns. Stockpiles intended for bombing casualties were rushed into use. Without them, hundreds more would have died. The circus faced criminal charges. Ringling executives were indicted for manslaughter. They pled no contest, served short sentences, and paid over $5 million, more than $80 million in today's dollars. Ringling's reputation never recovered. They abandoned traveling tents for permanent arenas where the fire codes could be enforced. Cautionary tales were missed or ignored. Paraffin and gasoline treatment was used because it was fast, cheap, and the way it's always been done, even after fires proved its danger. Vital exit corridors became storage space, junk, cages, and whatever fit, and people died because of it. And for survivors, the fire's damage didn't end with the ashes. Parents lost children. Children lost parents. Survivors carried scars, visible and unseen, and guilt their whole lives. The Hartford Fire forced sweeping reforms nationwide. Tents and public venues had to be flame-proofed. Occupant limits enforced. Emergency exits had to be numerous, wide, and unobstructed. Fire marshals gained the authority to shut down unsafe operations. Hartford joined a dark line of disasters. Triangle Shirtwaist in 1911, Coconut Grove in 1942, and then Hartford in 1944. All echoed the same refrain: too few exits, flammable structures, ignored warnings, and lives lost. Circuses promise wonder, laughter, and joy. But in Hartford, the spectacle became one of the darkest chapters in American fire history. It wasn't a freak accident. It was predictable. The result of flammable materials, blocked exit, and blind trust that it will be fine. So here's an ounce. Safety isn't a sideshow act. Ignore the warnings, block the exits, and the curtain can fall fast. And that's it. An ounce submitted for your consideration. The families in Hartford never forgot this day. Remembering it keeps their story alive. Have we done enough to stop it from happening again? Share your thoughts in the comments and share this story with someone who should hear it. Thanks.